Welcome to Jimmy's Tips and Tricks. We're going to do a little demonstration and I'll show you a few tips on heat welding single ply material. This particular material we're using today is a TPO, and we're going to weld a seam and show you a few tricks. We're going to show you how to cut a straight line, or how to mark a straight line on the sheet. Okay, she cut the triangle and now she pulls it, and that string makes a straight line right across the material. Just like that. Now you can go back, you have a perfectly straight line, cut your material, and you're nice and square. You want to make sure you have proper PPE for whatever task you're doing. We have gloves, safety glasses, whatever PPE you need, make sure you use for whatever you're doing. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna weld this seam, and I'm gonna first weld what we call an air dam. So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna stick the gun in here, and I'm gonna start to weld a line right down this sheet. So we're just trying to weld this material together to give us a little dam. Now that we've done that, you can see here where we got a seal all along this sheet. What that allows us to do is when we go back and start welding, that air won't just blow through the sheet. It'll hit that dam, and that heat will build up inside that sheet and help it to weld. Now I'm going to make a couple passes, because anytime you're using a handheld gun, you need 2 inches to weld. If you're using a robot, you can get away with 1.5 inches. So I'm holding this gun at like a 45-degree angle, and I'm rolling right in front of the tip. So you can see now we've welded about half of what was remaining on that seam, and we're going to go back and make one more pass. When I make this pass, I want the tip of my gun to stick out a little bit, so that I'm making sure that I'm welding that whole sheet. So I'll let that tip just stick out, and keep rolling at a 45-degree angle here. And you can see that sheet welding together. Okay, when you're done welding, you got to let that sheet cool, and then you can go back and probe it and make sure that you don't have voids in it. So you run your probe along here and make sure you give a little pressure so you can see if you have any voids. This one seems to be pretty good. We're going to take another sheet now, and we're going to put it across this. And what we do here is we're creating a T. You can see the intersection here. Anytime you have a T like this, you want to put a patch, an unsupported material patch in this area that'll form to this intersection a lot nicer, to keep you from having a little pinhole right here. Okay, so what we'll do is make sure we clean this sheet first. So you want to use soap and water if it's fairly clean. If it's real dirty, you'd have to use the manufacturer's cleaner that they recommend for their material. But this being new sheets, it's pretty clean. We can get away with soap and water. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our air dam first. So we're going to reach in here, and we're just going to tack this sheet a little bit so it doesn't move. Okay, we're going to go in here and we're going to make our air dam.
All
Alright, now one thing we didn't do, which you should do, is make sure that you always round your corners. Always round your corners on your sheets. Real simple. Okay. If you don't round your corners and this happens, a lot of manufacturers will make you put a patch over that. Okay. So to keep from that happening, just make sure you always round your corners. Okay, we let that cool, we probe it, and then we'll go and we'll put a little patch. Okay, now that it's cooled, we can go back and try probing it. Make sure you put a little pressure on there. See right here, this intersection, you can kind of get your probe in there a little bit. That's why we put the patch in that spot. Now this material here is a supported membrane. It has fibers that run through this sheet. This is an unsupported material which will form a lot better than this. This is a lot more rigid material here that we're using in the field. So this material, when we put it on, will form to this little hump right here on all these sides a lot better. So what we're going to do, remember we always have to have 2-inch minimum of weld with the handgun. So I always make my patch 6x6 just to be safe. Really 4-inch would work on this, but that's the bare minimum. So we don't like to take chances like that. We just make them 6x6 and we're good. Now I'm just going to tack this down so it doesn't move on me. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on the inside out. So I'm going to put a little heat in here. Work my way right around. That forms a lot nicer in here. You can see right here how tight they get. It's a little over welded here, but anyway, you wait for it to cool before you probe. Put a little pressure. Now you see a little bit here. What you do is take the gun and put the gun in here and keep that down. Okay, that wraps up this tips and tricks on the TPO, and if you liked the video, hit the like button below and subscribe, and we'll get you some more videos to look at.